Parent Red Alert. We are continuing our coverage on this dangerous takeover trend where hundreds of young adults close down streets to perform reckless car stunts. People go to these street takeovers for the adrenaline.
Absolutely, that's the whole point.
The man who killed your brother may only serve 2.5 years in prison.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Where is the parent for every one of these kids? Tonight, we are continuing to discuss a topic that I believe is a parent red alert. A few months ago, we covered a shocking new trend law enforcement calls a takeover, an event organized on social media with the sole intention of gathering as many teens and young adults as possible in order to literally take over city and suburban streets, parks, malls, and houses to party in for profit. Now, often these events result in businesses ransacked and neighborhoods destroyed from chaotic behavior and violence that ensues, many times leading to arrest and death.
Takeover parties is what we've taken to calling this phenomenon. Get a group of young people getting organized, showing up at a place that they're not supposed to be, taking over abandoned building, a warehouse, or a residence in some instances, waving guns around. That's a recipe for disaster. What we have seen is that young people are dying at these parties.
Well, over the course of this past week, my team has been working to gather intel online in order to track alleged takeover party host in Bexar County, Texas. And once the address was revealed, we immediately provided it to Bexar County Sheriff's Office. That night, they allowed our cameras to follow them to that location, and sure enough, there were teens, drugs, alcohol, and guns.
Get on the ground! We got a dog!
Stay your Turn off your car. Turn it off.
It's your hand! Keep your hands away from your body! On the ground! On the floor now! On the floor now!
Crawl out feet first. Crawl out feet first. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Good. I got you covered.
All the way down. All the way down now.
Your house doesn't smell like marijuana. You understand that, right? You got a bar on you?
Anybody else inside the house?
It looks like it's semi-automatic. These are the weapons that are claiming the lives of innocent kids on the street. Same weapon that's being used in school shootings across the nation.
We got the host.
Come to the back when we find discarded marijuana, we find alcohol and beer, and then come to find a rifle. You introduce that, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Melina knows firsthand how unsafe a takeover can be. Her teenage boyfriend, Landon, was shot and killed.
On August 3rd, we decided to go to a party. When we went to the final house, it was just packed, and it ended up being a lot of people just waving guns in the air. Me and Landon had walked outside, and that's when we heard the first gunshot. I just remember running, and when I got to my car, I realized that he wasn't with me, so I ran back into the house. There was people standing around, a person on the ground. I realized it was Landon when I saw his shirt. I ran up to him, and I just started screaming for people to help him. These parties are very dangerous. I feel guilt from it because I know had I not wanted to go, he would still be here.
My guest, Sasha, her son Landon's shooter is still on the loose.
Landon was not into the party scene. The night of the party, he decided to go with his girlfriend, Melina,
to make sure that she got home safely. We got the phone call that there was only one fatality, and immediately I knew that it was my son. My world fell apart. You're never thinking that you're gonna bury your children.
It doesn't matter how well-intended they are.
Yeah.
You put certain things together, it's just gonna spell disaster, right?
Yes.
You put drugs, alcohol, brains that aren't finished growing yet,
Sure.
and then you throw guns in the middle of it, and who knows what happens. Tonight, we are continuing our coverage on this dangerous takeover trend and specifically focusing on street takeovers, where hundreds of young adults close down streets to perform reckless car stunts. If I had a soapbox, I would climb up on it right now, because what you were just looking at here are these teens just taking over a street, taking over an intersection. The police show up and they swarm and attack the police car. They're kicking the police car, trying to kick the windows out of the police car. Let me tell you something, guys. Enough's enough and too much is too much. You've heard me say, and maybe it sounds old-fashioned, but the backbone of this country, the backbone of any society is the family. It's the family unit. And when I look at something like you were just looking at here, with these kids out swarming this intersection, climbing up on, kicking a police car, trying to kick the windows out of a police car, you know what my first thought is? Every one of those kids has a parent somewhere. Where is the parent for every one of these kids? And what in the world is going on that that kid has been raised in such a way that he thinks that's okay? Because you know who's in that police car? In that police car is a man or a woman who gets up every morning and puts on a uniform and steps out into the world to stand in the gap to keep you and me safe. Every single day. And then they show up where something like this is going on and they're swarmed and attacked by a bunch of teenagers. Where are their parents? Does that occur to y'all when you see that? Where is their parents? Were these kids raised by wolves? And if you don't know that your kid's out trying to kick the windows out of a police car, let me tell you something. It's your job to know. And I've done some shows recently involving school shooters. And you remember the school shooter, Ethan Crumley, up in Michigan. They prosecuted the parents. You know why? Because the parents enabled the child. And the child went out and did something tragic. And when they checked back, the parents were recklessly, negligently inattentive. So if you're watching this, you need to know where your kids are and what you're doing. My first guest, Eli, is a household name here in Texas when it comes to hosting legal car events. I didn't say illegal, I said legal. He says he understands what draws the younger generation to illegal street takeovers because he was once drawn to them himself.
I'm a lifelong car enthusiast. As a young kid, uninformed, I went to a lot of illegal car meets and witnessed a bunch of crazy things. The first actual takeover I've been to, I saw 3 or 4 people get hit by cars. I have seen cars doing crazy burnouts, hitting light posts. I've seen a mob of the takeover guys throw fireworks in cop cars. I've seen them smash civilian cars. I've seen them light a ring of fire, stand in the middle while cars are doing donuts around them. I've seen shootings. People like takeovers because of the adrenaline rush. After seeing how unorganized they were, that's really what made me want to start hosting my own events. The first time I hosted an unpermitted event, maybe 50 cars came. Within 6 weeks, we had 500 cars. As those got bigger, we started hosting actual meets at real venues with police and permits. We also host at churches to do charity drives. We do an annual food drive. We host giveaways. We host competitions. My events definitely have the potential to go out of control, but I make sure every event I have at least 20 to 30 staff members. I have off-duty police officers there, and I also have the venues provided staff security on hand as well. So if any reckless behavior happens at my event, they'll kick them out. My biggest focus right now is saving the car scene. Takeovers are super dangerous. They risk everybody's lives. I just want to provide a safe and fun event where these dangers don't happen.
Let's be honest, we're not getting any younger, and if you want to look and feel your best, check out Pure Health Research. With 45 premium health supplements targeting every health goal, boosting energy, trimming belly fat, supporting blood sugar, increasing testosterone, or reducing leg swelling, Pure Health has you covered. Each formula features natural, non-GMO ingredients backed by clinical research and manufactured in the USA. Here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use coupon code PHIL at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's zero risk in trying something new. So why wait? Head over to purehealthresearch.com now. Explore their 45 amazing supplements and save 35% before this deal ends with coupon code PHIL. Don't miss this chance to feel your best. $36 trillion. That is the U.S. debt, and it gets deeper and deeper by the day. Our debt has never been higher, nor have the stakes. The government is looking to slash the federal budget by $2 trillion, and no one knows what that will mean for your job, savings, and future. I've seen a lot in my time, and there's one thing I know for sure. You need to prepare before it's too late. I trust Preserve Gold to help protect my wealth, and I strongly urge you to do the same. They are the only precious metals firm I trust and recommend to my family, friends, and audience, and they have a special offer just for you. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue throughout 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today. Well, Eli, thank you for being here and talking about this. Now, you say people go to these street takeovers for the adrenaline. You know, they're wanting that rush, right? They're wanting to get almost getting hit by a car or running from the police when they show up and everybody has to scatter.
Absolutely, that's the whole point.
So how many of these did you go to before you grew the rest of your brain and decided not to be an idiot?
Yeah, so I've never attended a street takeover where you take over an intersection or anything like that. I started attending unorganized car meets where you go to a parking lot and you just find an address on Instagram and you just go. And then you see a bunch of cars you like. But seeing how unorganized those were made me want to kind of host my own. I didn't see any effort being put into them, any organization put into them. And then I saw on Instagram shortly after I started hosting little car meets, 20, 30, 50 cars. I started seeing street takeovers everywhere on the news, on Instagram. Every 3 reels, I'd get one takeover video just because I like cars. Mm-hmm. And I would see, you know, police cars getting lit on fire, fireworks being lit in police cars.
Yeah. And you've seen cars doing donuts inside a ring of fire and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, I've seen it all.
I mean, it can look like a lot of fun, and why not do it where it's not illegal and there's some safety involved in it?
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about that. You've seen people get smashed between cars?
Yeah, so I went to what they call a legal pit. I like the movement, what they're trying to do. A lot of the legal pits that you see around, I don't see it being actually legal. They just find an owner of a piece of concrete to allow them to come out, and they'll sell tickets, but they'll get 500 people surrounding, a few cars doing donuts. And I decided to attend one, and just to see how it all plays out. I wanted to feel the adrenaline of a takeover, and I wanted to see what the hype was all about. So I parked my car, and as I was walking to the pit, is what they call it. The pit is the 500 people standing around, and then the 2 cars doing donuts in the middle. As I was walking to the pit, I see a guy holding his girlfriend and her legs hanging by her knee. I see a bunch of blood. I was like, well, that's not a great first impression. And I walked into the pit, and after that, I saw a few more people get smashed in between shipping containers and stuff like that.
Oh, jeez. Next, an alleged street takeover that left a young man dead and his fiancée clinging for her life after a reckless driver hit them both as they crossed the street, walking friends home from a dinner party. That's where it gets out of control. We're going to meet the fiancée and the young man's sister because they were just taking a walk. We'll be right back. Cindy and Maria know firsthand just how dangerous a street takeover can be. Maria says what started out as a fun night hosting a dinner party for friends ended up with her in a coma and her loving fiancé, Raymond, dead. Maria says while crossing the street, she and Raymond were run over by a young man allegedly leaving a street takeover. Now Maria is left to pick up the pieces while Raymond's sister, Cindy, fights for safer streets in honor of her late brother.
When I woke up, the doctor came running to me. She told me not to get out of bed because I had been in a car accident.
I get a call from my sister telling me my brother died. The vehicle was going so fast that at impact, it tore one of Raymond's legs off. He was pinned under the vehicle. The scene was so gruesome. Maria was resuscitated at the scene. She was in a coma for 3 weeks.
I sustained a dislocated jaw, a broken skull. 3 of my fingers were broken. I had a laceration on my left thigh and fractures on my ribs.
The driver of the vehicle was 21 years old. He was leaving a takeover. It boils my blood. This movement just keeps getting bigger and no one's really doing anything about it. She went from being a healthy 27-year-old ready to get married, and someone's reckless act just came and took everything from them.
Takeovers are dumb. They're still doing takeovers right there on our street. They're driving at a very, very high speed. I see it.
Well, thank you both for being here. Sorry for the occasion, of course. Cindy, you say the man who killed your brother may only serve 2.5 years in prison, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. He's scheduled to be released from prison for good behavior next summer.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel disappointed. I feel angry. And I feel like my whole family was robbed from our whole future. My little brother was the center of our world. Our lives are
You know, I had strong words about this at the top of the show when I said, what's an adrenaline rush worth? You guys are just walking, right?
Yes.
Just walking some friends home. And you've got to ask yourself every day,
Why?
what do you ask yourself?
Why? That's what I ask myself every day, just why?
And how do you answer that question?
I don't have an answer.
Because it doesn't make sense. You're trying to make sense out of nonsense, and you can't do that because it is nonsense. Off they go, boom, you're hit. How long were you in a coma?
I don't know. She was hospitalized for about a month. She was in a coma for about 3 weeks.
And then you wake up and find out that he's gone. And you see kids recording the crash scene and laughing about it and all. What do you say to yourself about that? That's what I'm saying to everybody. Have we lost our minds here? Are we out of control?
Just brings me complete anger, complete sadness to see that someone that has no motivation in life, no aspiration, no guidance, no mentorship comes and takes something from someone that has goals in life, someone that has worked so hard to become an educated person. My brother was a civil engineer for the city. Maria was a teacher and educator for the district. And here you go, two successful young people crossing a residential street and a vehicle driving recklessly, fleeing one of these takeovers, heading to another location, strikes them. And the crowd behind them think it's funny to record someone in that manner and post them online for monetization, for likes, for views, without taking into consideration the family and who is going to be seeing that.
Yeah, because for them, it's over that day. You know, they record it, put it up for clicks. They're not there through all the rehab. They're not there through all the grief. They're not there for all the things that you guys are having to go through. And you know, when I say I want you to talk to your kids, talk to your grandkids, they need to see things like this. They need to understand that there is a consequence to what you do when you go out recklessly. That car weighs, 4,000 pounds. It gets out of control fast. You get out of control of it fast. You guys plan to have a family, right?
Yes. We actually planned to get married that year. Actually, last year, we were already planning our wedding at our home, our recently purchased home.
Yeah. And all that's gone.
This kid took all of our hopes, our dreams. My sisters and I were planning to be bridesmaids. We were all in group chats talking with Raymond. And he would always picture how beautiful we would all look as his bridesmaids. He was the center of our world. He was a man of the family. And he's no longer here to guide us. He was paving the way for all of us. He was a first-generation American, first to graduate from college, first to get engaged, first to buy a home. He was living life by the book, doing things. He accomplished so many things at such a young age. He was only 27 years old when he was killed.
It's absolutely tragic. And so you're doing advocacy work to stop street racing, to stop these takeovers.
Yes, sir. I've been mentoring parents. I'm a mother myself. I'm a single mother, and I know what sacrifices we have to do to be able to put food on the table and provide. However, when we indent core values, principles, morals, we have that open line of communication with our children, we can expect them to behave the way they're expected to behave even when we're not physically there.
Of course. That's why I say even though it's not safe, it's safer. It's better when you get this off the street. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, joining us is Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar. I want him to weigh in on the difference between doing these things legally, where there are some safety precautions and boundaries and barriers, and doing them illegally. We'll talk about that and more of this when we come back. Life is full of surprises, and emergencies often strike when we least expect them. But preparation is key, and that's where Jace Case comes in. With Jace Case, you'll have essential emergency prescription medications right at your fingertips, ready when you need them most. Whether it's an unexpected illness or a travel mishap, having the right meds on hand can turn a potential crisis into just a minor inconvenience. Don't let the unexpected catch you off guard. Jace Case gives you peace of mind so you can tackle life surprises with confidence. Be ready. Take charge today. Head over to jace.com. That's JASE.com. And when you check out, use the code PHIL. spelled PHIL, to get a discount on your order and to have the right meds on hand the moment you need them. We're back talking about teen takeovers, and teens can be taking over houses, they can be taking over intersections, they can be taking over parking lots or whatever. And here's the thing. Think about those words in a sentence. Teen takeover. Let me say it again. Teen takeover. Now, the problem with that is several. Your brain's not through growing until you're at least 25. Some research says not until you're really early 30s, particularly for guys. And the last part that grows is the neocortex, this part in the front. It's what makes us different than a lot of animals. And that's the part where you have foresight, the ability to predict the consequences of your actions. You know, it's the reason you don't give a 16-year-old kid a brand new Corvette, because they have no idea how fast that can turn into just a bunch of plastic scattered on the highway. They don't have the ability to foresee that. As adults, we're supposed to see around those corners for them until they get that ability. Now, Eli, who's with us tonight, hosts these kinds of car shows, these kind of car events in a legal way with actually police at the event. Because look, it's okay to do things with cars as long as you have safety considerations in place. Now, Sheriff Javier Salazar from Bexar County is with us. Sheriff, there's a huge difference between doing these with adult supervision, with police there that are trained to drive at high speeds, unusual situations and circumstances, and can figure out what needs to happen in order to have enough safety boundaries for people around. What's the difference in terms of predictable outcome between safe versus a bunch of kids getting in a parking lot or on an intersection somewhere?
Well, let me just say with these events, safer doesn't necessarily mean safe.
Right.
We've all seen the stories where these things start out legal and then safer, and it still turns, goes head south. But with that being said, what we see in the street takeovers is just straight up lawlessness. They get out there, again, a lot of times alcohol and drugs are involved, many times firearms are involved, and the bravado that goes along with that. And they feel compelled to get out and let's see what else we can get away with. And then, well, that group over there did this. Let's see what else we can get away with. And it's just one-upsmanship to the point where now you're just placing people in danger for their lives.
Yeah, and we've looked at this where we've seen, apparently there's a big thrill to spinning around because we see lots of donuts and lots of spinning, even tighter than a donut. And I've seen video after video with some girl hanging out the window until the car spins too much and hits a light pole, and then she's thrown out the window, all except her left leg, which got caught in the cruck of the car, and then people's lives are changed forever. That's the problem.
Absolutely. And look, I've been in a spinning car before, and it wasn't any fun as far as I can remember. It was a patrol car, by the way.
Yeah.
But with that being said, these things go from just having fun, so it seems, to somebody losing their life just like that.
Yeah. And that's just a perfect example of what we're looking at here, people getting thrown out the windows or somebody getting too close and, getting hit and boom. That's what you're trying to avoid, right?
Absolutely. I promote it every day.
Yeah.
I promote that anti-takeover every day.
Yeah. And the host of illegal takeovers want videos that are outrageous so they get a lot of clicks, right? Everybody scrambling to get away from the police, guns going off, everything happening in the world, because that's the big adrenaline rush. Now, everybody gets a car and puts a loud muffler on it and says, we got to go get in this. This is fun. This is like scatter. That's not fun for you guys.
No, it's no fun for us. I mean, you're putting everybody in the public at risk when you're doing that sort of stuff. Not just the spectators, but the motoring public when you're doing a highway takeover. Not to mention all the first responders that are going code to get there to stop it from happening.
Yeah, you guys even now have guidelines where you'll break off a high-speed chase rather than chase somebody in an unsafe way or into an area where there's going to be a lot of traffic and that sort of thing.
Sure. I mean, at a certain point, when the chase, the pursuit tactics themselves become more dangerous than what started the pursuit, when it comes to that point, it's time to start thinking about cutting things off at that point, for sure.
How many people show up at your events now that you promote?
I mean, it ranges. We host events at Texas Motor Speedway. Those events will have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people.
Mm-hmm. And what happens at those events?
So at those events, we do drifting on a track. So we have a road course there at TMS for drifting. So we have drift instructors there teaching, younger guys how to drift if they don't know how to drive their car. Drifting also allows you to know how to control your car, not even off the track, When your car is completely sideways at 80 miles, to know how to correct that and come back to a straight line. So we do drifting there. We also do a burnout competition for those who like that. The crowd will vote for, whoever has the best burnout, and they'll win $2,000. Yeah. And then we'll also have drag racing. So that's racing from a stop in a straight line, 8th mile down, and whoever wins, wins. Bracket race all the way down to first place in different classes.
Do you have police there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Fort Worth police patrol that, and that's provided by Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
We also have around 40 to 50 staff members for that, and we also have private security on hand as well.
Yeah. So people can just do burnout competitions.
Yeah, so we have a
Those are the kids whose parents buy their tires.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not all kids, most of them are kids. Most of the kids are there watching, so they're watching how to do it the right way. And most of the people that are actually competing with their cars, they're showing the kids how to do it. And we're also teaching kids how to do it on a track and how to do it the correct way. But yeah, it's mostly guys that are pretty well established. They have a full-time job and they want to come out and escape for the weekend and burn their tires out and potentially win some money and get some social media presence.
And that makes sense to you as long as it's at Texas Motor Speedway, right?
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
I'd say it's better. Give me a break. Come on.
I mean, look, I've studied high performance driving, and even then, I still can lose control of my car and have a crash. I just, some young kid, I get it, they're older kids, but still, it doesn't make it necessarily the safest thing going out there.
But at least it's at the Motor Speedway where there's a lot of room.
Granted, at least it's at the Motor Speedway, but still, I mean, those cars, once they get to flying around and losing control, it can easily fly into a crowd, fly into another car. Things can still go south.
Yeah, that's why they have those fences with all the reinforcement at NASCAR. Sure. I drove the pace car a couple months ago, and it's a big, wide track, but you get going really fast on those banks, it can get out of control. I didn't, but you can. When we come back, we're going to add someone to the conversation, a retired cybercrime detective who travels the country training students on how to properly report takeovers and other crimes that they see online. This is going to be important to hear, because when you see it, what do you do? Because, I mean, they have millions of posts every day. This stuff just goes up all the time. But what can you do if your kid does bring this to you? Your teen says, look, this is where you told me not to do, but, here's one, here's another, here's another. What do you do about all that? We're going to get his advice right after the break. So I'm adding to the conversation a retired cybercrime detective who had a 30-year career in law enforcement, was a member of the United States Secret Service Computer Crimes Task Force, and is currently a deputy with Putnam County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee. Now, he travels the country, really raising awareness and teaching students how to properly report dangerous activity that they see online. So please welcome Detective Rich Wistocki. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
So when they see this, there are things that they can do. What's number one?
So number one, when I train kids and parents what to do with these types of things, a lot of times they just will delete it, they'll report it. But number one, we need to be able to take screen captures of everything.
Okay.
The chat, the profile, the pictures, the videos, anything that the poster's putting out, we need to take screen captures of that.
Because it could go away.
Yeah, it can go away.
Yeah.
They can delete it.
Yeah. And then second, you say provide gamer tag, user ID, email address, phone number. What do you
Yes,
think?
because a lot of these are put out on social media, on gaming platforms like Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite. So we want to have either the gamer tag, the user ID, text message from the phone number that they make, or the email that's sending it out. Any one of those four or a combination of those four, we need to have that information to do an investigation.
All right, and what do you do with that info?
So what we do with that, law enforcement has portals. So we have special design portals just for law enforcement that are credentialed, and we can talk straight to the social network, and they give us the information once we give them due process, whether it's exigency, whether it's a search warrant or a subpoena.
Okay. All right. Number 3, you said do not report it to social network because it just goes into a long, big stack.
Yeah, so what happens with that, here's what I tell my parents and students across the country. If you're going to report it to the police, do not report it to abuse, because what happens is when you report it to abuse first, right, it goes into a queue where their security team will examine it for TOS, terms of service. So if it violates the terms of service, that account may be deleted. Well, then when you report it to the police, the patrol officer will take the report, it goes to investigations. That could take a week to 10 days. Then once the detective goes and does preservation, subpoena, or search warrant, they've already deleted it. But if you're not going to report it to police, by all means, always report it to abuse.
You say write a detailed written statement about what happened.
Yes. So I want the person who is viewing it to write down exactly what happened, who sent it, and how it made them feel, because in law enforcement investigations, we cannot be alarmed and disturbed, according to the Supreme Court. But if I have a victim reporting to us that they're alarmed and disturbed for these reasons, that can go into a search warrant that we're going to serve on the social media to find out what these people are up to.
Okay. And then you say print everything and put it on a flash drive. Why?
Right. So I want them to, everything that we told them to grab, we want them to print it out and put it on a flash drive. The reason why we need to put it on a flash drive is because of those portals. The social networks are going to require law enforcement to upload what the threat is, to upload what the danger is. So taking those screenshots in digital form, putting in our computers and uploading them into the platform, then they have it immediately.
So if somebody sees that and reports it, can they get to this fast enough before something happens? Because usually this drops really quick, right, Sheriff?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah, they'll put it out. Here's what the ECPA says, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. If death or great bodily harm is about to happen or happening now, within reasonable amount of time, which means about 2 hours, and we do this with school shootings too, school shooting threats, within about 2 hours, we can identify where the person is, who's posting it.
Within 2 hours?
Within 2 hours.
And then you activate local law enforcement?
Absolutely.
My final thoughts about all this after the break. Well, tonight we've been discussing the tragic consequences of teen and young adult trends that law enforcement calls a takeover. And I don't know if you've ever driven up on one or gotten close to one, but they are so brazen, they'll just hit an intersection and it'll be traffic jammed back so far in all four directions, not even law enforcement can get up there, right? It's just terrible. And you can't know where your child's going every night. Once they leave the house, they tell you A and they go do B, C, or D, but you can talk to them about what happens at some of these things ahead of time. You should have them hear the stories that we're talking about here. You know, Raymond is gone. That's undeniable. Everybody's left with the aftermath of that. You're still having to fight back from your injuries, right?
Yes, I am every day.
Every single day.
Every day.
And all for 10 seconds of an adrenaline rush from somebody. So, you know, your kids can't look away from some of this stuff if you make them look at it, if you make them aware. And they've got to have the strength of their convictions to say, no, just pull over and let me out. What you can do is help them develop foresight, where you say, all right, let's just play the what if game. All right. And you know, you can play the what if game till it makes you crazy. Like, what if we hadn't walked across that intersection at that time? But the what if game can also be constructive as long as you answer the question. What if I do go? What if somebody is hit by a car? What if I'm implicated in it? What if it changes my whole life? What if I go to jail? Answer those questions, and maybe your child will take pause and say, you know what? the risk-reward ratio is just not good for me. But the only way you're going to affect that is you sit down and have that conversation with them. And they might roll their eyes, say, oh, Mom, come on. Oh, Dad, come on. But they're going to hear it. And you need to teach them, it's what we refer to as critical thinking, how to think their way through this, because they don't come to it naturally at that age. You got to teach them how to think their way through. Let's just project ahead. Let's say if this happens, then that happens, then this happens. And it sticks with them. The whole goal of any discipline is that it ultimately becomes internalized and becomes self-discipline. And that's true whether you're dealing with a 2-year-old, 12-year-old, 18-year-old, whatever. You hope they internalize it and it becomes self-discipline. Maybe if somebody had had that conversation, maybe you two wouldn't be sitting here tonight. And maybe using this as an example will save somebody else from filling that chair next year. Let's just pray that's true. I want to thank all of my guests tonight, and a special thanks to Sheriff Javier Salazar and the Bexar County Sheriff's Office for all their assistance on tonight's episode. Also want to thank you, Detective, so much for being here and talking about these things. And the 5 points that he talked about will be on our website, drphil.com, so you can see what to do. Before we go, we want to take a brief moment of silence as we honor Raymond, who was such a wonderful young man with so much going for him, who was taken much too soon. Thank you all for being here. Good night.